So thank you all for joining us today. Here's a quick agenda. I'll introduce myself. I'm Marianne Vernetson. I'm the Associate Director here at the Graham Center for Public Service, and I am a partner here with Galen, my colleague. We're the academic unit for the Tallahassee Internship Program. Galen, will you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Galen Morgan. I work in the university's Office of Government and Community Relations, and myself and Samantha Sexton are actually based in Tallahassee. So we have the privilege of working with the Tallahassee interns when they are here for the semester. So
excellent. And you'll be hearing from myself and Galen not only throughout this presentation, but throughout the application process as well. So a few points on Zoom housekeeping. Please keep yourself muted unless you're speaking. We intentionally set this as more of a meeting and not a webinar. We want you to be able to use the raise hand and chat features if you have questions while I'm presenting. Galen will keep an eye out on the chat and the raise hand. And so if you do want to ask a question in the middle of the presentation, that's fine. We will also have a chance at the end for questions. We're going to start with a quick overview of the program. We'll talk about the application process, and then we have two students who participated in the program last spring who will present on their experiences. One was in a legislative office and the other was in an agency. So first of all, the Bob Graham Center for Public Service has been doing this program for more than 10 years now. It started in 2009, and we've been working with the Office of UF Government and Community Relations, as you know. Typically, we offer anywhere between 10 and 15 internships each spring that coincide with the Florida legislative session. There are three components essentially to the internship. The first is the internship itself, so your office work, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type thing. Your academic course credit, which I'll go into detail in a moment, and then professional development and networking opportunities. So here I've listed that the internship is 5 days a week for 40 plus hours a week, but Galen in a few moments will tell you a little bit what it's like during session and some of the expectations. We typically begin in early January. This year we're looking at on or around January 11th, and the program will conclude in early May when session's over. There are some basic course credit requirements. All interns are required to take IDS 4930. It's a 3-credit asynchronous online Florida politics course. The second one is Tallahassee Internship Credit. That course is with me, and you can take anywhere from 3 to 6 credits for that. Other students like to take even more credit. We can arrange that through your home major, through political science, or an independent study with me. So for example, if you're a Florida Bright Future Scholar and you need 12 credit hours, we can offer you 6 of the Tallahassee internship, 3 of Florida politics, and then we can help you find 3 more credits somewhere else. Other students like to take at least 1 credit in their home department, or sorry, 1 course in their home department because they might be working towards some prerequisites in their major. A little bit on the logistical components. There are shared apartments in Tallahassee. That's the housing that we use. We are currently looking into an opportunity that's a little bit closer to the Capitol. Right now, the one we have used in the past was about 2 miles away. It is off a bus route, but many students opt to not bring their car, and so it's a challenge for commuting. We also offer a cost of living stipend. This is typically anywhere between $1,000 and $1,200. And then finally, there's professional development support throughout the time you're in Tallahassee, not only through programs, but we send you with a set of business cards, a formal name badge representing the program and the university, and also a polo to wear if there are opportunities for you to be active on the Capitol steps representing UF. And now I'm going to turn it over to Galen.
So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what to expect during your time in Tallahassee. So this year is an election year. So our legislative session here in Florida only runs for 60 days. And so what that looks like in an election year is we will start in early January with what are called committee weeks. And so that is before the session has officially begun. These are informative weeks where the members travel to Tallahassee to learn about specific issues in preparation for session. So this year is if you plan to apply this year, there will be lots of opportunities to learn about a wide range of issues, both during those committee weeks and then when the formal legislative session starts in the middle of March. As Marianne mentioned earlier, you can expect a fast-paced work environment. You should expect to be working 5 days a week and for roughly 40 hours a day. Because these members are only in Tallahassee for 60 days. It is busy while they are there, but you will have great support. They all have staff members there as well to support you in your time there, but you should be prepared to be working while you're there. It's a fun, busy time to be in Tallahassee. And then the last thing I'll add on this session is there are more than 50 committee meetings every single week. So if you don't have to only be interested in political science or law to participate in this internship. There are committee meetings about agriculture, about healthcare, about K-12 education, about law reform, any issue that is of interest to you or you think would enhance your academic experience. There is a committee and a group of legislators that are working on that that you can participate in and learn in during your time. So the second kind of thing you can expect in Tallahassee, in terms of your internship is several networking opportunities. A huge part of getting involved in the Florida legislative process and in Florida politics is networking. And the University of Florida is fortunate, even though we're in enemy territory in Tallahassee, to have a wonderful group of Gators, not only in the legislature, which we call our Gator Caucus members, but also just working in the Florida legislative process, both in agencies, in the governor's office, for the Florida Supreme Court, or like I said, in the legislature. So our office puts on several programming and networking events throughout the semester, giving the Tallahassee interns an opportunity to meet with members of our Gator Caucus who are alumni and friends of the university who are currently serving in the Florida legislature. And then also with what we call our Gators in government, which are, like I said, those people working all over the legislative process in Tallahassee. And then also to be a part of Gator Day, which is our huge alumni outreach in Tallahassee, where we invite the entire Gator Nation to celebrate the University of Florida and our partnership with the state legislature. So overall, you can expect a very exciting semester. A lot goes on in Tallahassee, and there's so many opportunities to learn about what our state is doing. And like I mentioned, how that specifically applies to your academic area of interest. And then when you think about kind of where you want to be, if you were to, apply and take part in this internship, we would love for y'all to send in the chat, maybe you have a specific senator or representative, maybe you're interested in being at the Supreme Court or with a specific agency. We're just curious. You can send it privately to myself or Marianne or to the group, but we just want to kind of see where the interest is. These are a very small list of some of the members of both the House and the Senate that have expressed interest in hosting a University of Florida intern. We have over 25 offices that have expressed interest. This program is one that is very well respected in Tallahassee. If you come to Tallahassee this spring, you will see that UCF and FSU and many other universities do similar programs like this, but we are very fortunate that so many members are interested in hosting our students. There's also placement opportunities with organizations like Ballard Partners, which is a lobbying firm if you are interested in seeing kind of the private sector of government. And then, as Marianne mentioned, there have been students who have previously served in agencies if you have a specific area of interest. And then also there's a position for a student specifically with interest in health, in the healthcare sector, whether that is say working for Senator Gail Harrell, who's the chair of the Healthcare Appropriations Committee, or maybe working for a healthcare agency.
Galen, we do have one question privately in the chat. Is the governor's office accepting any sort of interns in the spring? I know we haven't done it since I've been here, but I've only been here for one semester of
Yes.
this.
So the governor's office does not accept undergraduate interns. They have an internship program that they run that accepts graduate level and law interns. So if that's something you're interested in the future, you can contact our office, but they do not accept undergraduate interns.
Okay. There's also some other comments privately to me, someone in the education caucus or the Supreme Court. So there's lots of different, or Manny Diaz, lots of people
Absolutely.
are interested in some of the things you've put up there already. So
yes, so we want to do our best to place you where you are going to gain the most academically and really have a chance to grow. But no, sometimes there are offices that maybe you haven't heard of and members that are leaders and chairs of committees that, we think might be a great fit. So that'll be part after the interview and acceptance process. We will work with each individual student to place you in a where you are going to, really get the most of this experience. So
it's almost like a matchmaking experience. Like you all will tell us, it's like a dating matchmaking experience. You all will tell us your interest areas. We'll tell you what we have available, and then Galen and I really work with you to identify a placement that works.
Absolutely.
We did have someone who mentioned the Florida Chamber of Commerce. Have we done that in the past?
So we haven't, but that is something if you, I didn't see the comment, but if you choose to apply, that is something that we can work with you on. Our university has a great relationship with them, and they are, we have several Gators in leadership there. So we are open to exploring that opportunity with you if you to apply.
There's another comment to me privately that asks if there are opportunities in private firms other than Ballard Partners. So my experience has strictly been with Ballard Partners. I would ask Galen if you have any comments on that one.
So we currently do not, Ballard Partners is the only firm that has hosted an intern previously. However, like I mentioned, if you chose to apply and wanted us, I can't guarantee it, but if you wanted us to pursue opportunities with other lobbying firms in the area, those are conversations we would be willing to have. There are some that because of conflict of interest, we can only work with certain groups, but we would be, and if that's something that's going to affect whether or not you apply, you can definitely reach out ahead of time with a specific firm you're interested in. Just to be, clear, there are conflicts of interest. We can't work with everyone.
And that's actually a good point. So if there are questions we can't answer for you today or conversations you want to have privately, I do have office hours on Mondays and Thursdays, and we can set up time to speak. That's no problem. Should we move to the next slide, Galen? We can go through.
Yes.
Or do we have another chat?
I think we
okay. All right. There we go. So just really quickly, here's the sort of nitty-gritty on the application process and important dates. So your applications are due Sunday, October 18th by midnight. It is an online Qualtrics application. After this session, I'm going to send out a thank you to those of you who are able to attend with this recording, as well as a link to the pertinent webpage and application. It's a series of questions, and then a recommendation letter is required. So go ahead and make that ask now of someone. The details are within the application process on what we're looking for, but really it doesn't matter necessarily who the letter comes from. It should be someone, an academic advisor, a faculty member, someone you've worked for, or a mentor. It probably shouldn't be a family member or roommate, but it's someone who can speak to your work ethic and experience, as much experience as you have had at this point in your life, and what would make you an asset to the program or why you should be selected. And then Galen and I will review those applications and offer interviews for Thursday, October 22nd and Friday, October 23rd. We're really trying to do the interviews only over those 2 days, but if you know you have conflicts now, don't let that deter you from applying. We can find time. Selected interns will be announced the week of October 26th. And then after that, once the cohort's selected, Galen and I will start a series of discussions and different surveys with you to figure out placement, housing, and your academic course credit. I register you for for Florida Politics and the Tallahassee Internship Credit. So we do have you fill out a series of what courses you're enrolled in so that we can make those signups for you. Then we'll have an intern orientation via Zoom in December. That will really be, it'll be before the semester ends and before exams. That will really be more for a chance for you all to connect and meet one another, as well as hear about final details for housing, the stipend, course credit, and anything you need to know in advance of getting to Tallahassee. And then once you all arrive, there'll be an on-site orientation in January. In the past, that's been both a tour of the Capitol, a meeting with Galen and Samantha, and other relevant details. It's usually a half to a full day orientation, and we ask you to let your supervisor know in your individual office it is a required attendance. That's actually one other point I would like to make at this juncture. The professional development opportunities and networking opportunities for the most part are required. So if Galen is able to set up a meeting with, say, Florida Secretary of State Laurel Lee, we would expect the cohort to all attend. We know things come up and there are things that members need from you or your supervisor needs, but really we plan these in advance so that you can clear those times on your calendar because you are there representing the University of Florida and the Bob Graham Center. So would you like to add anything at this point, Galen?
Yes, I'll just briefly kind of touch on that last note that Mary made, and then also our on-site orientation.
Mm-hmm.
So we expect that many of y'all have not been to Tallahassee before and aren't familiar with the Capitol. And myself and Samantha and our team in Tallahassee, we want to make sure you are the most comfortable when you arrive there. So if you are nervous about what it might be like to work in an environment that's that big and there's that much going on, don't let that deter you from applying. Know that we are going to prepare you. Like Marian said, we're going to spend a whole day together last year, and we spent a good amount of time in the Capitol learning where different committee rooms are and where you can go to, get printouts and all different kinds of. So know that we are going to make sure that you are prepared and confident and ready to get into this internship in an environment that's, outside of Gainesville, outside of your comfort zone. But, we are there, and I'm excited to help y'all with that. And then just adding again to that quick note on the professional development, many of the people that we invite to speak with y'all are thrilled to do it. Most of them were UF students and are so excited to engage and give back to the UF community. So we do, like Marian said, those really are for the most part required because we think they are that great of benefit to you. And if you ever need help communicating with your supervisor, that is something that our team can step in and help you let them know of that time and of the value of it.
Okay, there's some logistical questions about course credit. We'll get to that in just 1 second. The only other thing I would note through the application process and important dates section we've been talking about here is Galen and I are required to communicate with you through your UF email. So that's one of the reasons the application says UF email, and that is where we will send everything, both that you've been selected for an interview or been selected for the program. It's where we'll communicate about your placement process. And so it's really important. It's where we'll communicate about your housing and your stipend. So it's really important that you are checking that email address regularly during this application process. And subsequently, once you have been selected, all of the final details for that. So that is a really, really critical point. I know we're all on Zoom and emails these days, but it's really essential to the process because we don't want you to miss out on something. So I'm going to stop my screen share here for a minute because we're waiting for our 2 guest speakers who will join us around 11:30. And I thought I would just offer up a chance for you all to ask questions and unmute yourself. I'm just looking back in the chat now because some of these were to me privately. So if you are enrolled in Florida Politics and the internship credit, you do have to pay for those credits. Those are UF academic course credits. Which is one reason, so people have bright futures that can pay for those course credits. And it's one reason that some students opt to take 12 credits, of which 9 are internship credit. There's no other course credit they need at the moment, and so they do that. Are there other questions at the moment that Galen and I can answer? Feel free to drop in the chat, raise your hand, or unmute. I can't believe there's no question.
Hi. Okay, so
Oh, hey, Julia.
hey, Marianne.
Good morning.
Because of COVID,
Oh,
what is the likelihood that this moves online?
so we probably should have opened with that because that's probably the number one question everyone's asking. So Galen and I talked about this a little bit the other day. At this moment, we are proceeding as though this program is fully in person, not online in any other respect other than your Florida politics course, but that would have been online, COVID or not. Galen and Samantha have been very proactive in reaching out to members and identifying whether they know they're going to be in Tallahassee or not, and whether they want an intern or not. That way, we aren't accepting, 20 of you and only 2 people are going to be in the state legislature in the spring. So we're being very careful about how we both recruit participants and recruit host sites. So Galen, do you want to add anything on that? I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing Galen and I can do if numbers tick up again and the state shuts down. But we are endeavoring to keep this as compliant with CDC guidelines as possible and give you all the best experience you can have.
So I'll just add kind of the perspective from Tallahassee. So at this point, the Florida Capitol is not open to visitors. However, there is not session going on. We do expect for things to change, and we don't know in what direction that will go and what that will look like. But like Marianne said, all of the names that were listed on that slide and the names that are on the Bob Graham Center's website, all of those offices have intended that if allowed, they plan to be in person, they plan to host an intern in person, and that they feel that they can safely provide a work environment that abides by UF's social distancing policies. So the current, and Marianne, correct me if I'm wrong, the university stance on internships is that as long as they are able to abide by the same social distancing policies that are on campus, that students are allowed to partake in them. So we are ensuring that each office that we work with is aware of those policies, and if they can provide a work environment that allows those policies to be in place, then we are comfortable placing a student there.
Yeah.
So that, again, all subject to change. That's where how we're moving forward right now.
And that's all, Galen, I had nothing to add on that. That's all what we understand as well. I will say the Graham Center is the academic unit for another program called the Washington Center in Washington, D.C., and they are doing an in-person in the spring as well as a virtual option. At this point, Galen and I are not doing a tangential virtual option. We are treating it fully in person and just keeping our eye on things and how they progress. But that's a really good question, Julia. We should have opened with that. So.
And I actually also have a follow-up question to that related to housing. Because of the COVID restrictions that the university has related to dorm rooms, will sort of the regulations for housing with the Bob Graham Center be similar to that? Or what are your thoughts on how you would proceed with COVID precautions there?
So they'll have to be similar. So in the past, it's been anywhere from 2 to 4 people in a 2, 3, or 4 person apartment. And so we'll have to be looking at, we can't put 4 people in one apartment together. So it does look different this year. I don't have the answer yet, but it's going to have to comply with the same things that UF is requiring of housing here. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And lots of hand sanitizer and lots of masks. Maybe this year, instead of your name badge, we should get you a Tallahassee Internship Program UF mask. So are there other questions that people have? Oh, Tatiana's saying great idea with the mask. So.
I had a question. I don't know if it was mentioned during the presentation, but is there like an additional cost for this, especially since we'll be...
Yep. So here's what I can tell you about cost currently. You will receive anywhere between $1,000 and $1,200 stipend. The housing is fully paid for by us. So we're going to have to look at what that looks like in terms of both social distancing guidelines and keeping you all safe, but also not spending so much money that we don't have any, for the program in the next year. We're going to have to be conscious of the budget. So. But the out-of-pocket cost to you, apologies, I should address that piece, is your academic course credit. So if you have student loans or Florida Bright Futures, or you pay out of pocket for that already, that's where that comes. And all of the money that you receive, so your stipend and your housing, is funneled through your student financial aid account. And we work so that the housing portion does not impact your financial aid need for those of you who have that, because the housing is a direct pass-through cost. We are not allowed as UF employees or UF as an institution to sign the housing contracts for you all. So you will be responsible for signing those and making the rental payments.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I'll add to that on the financial, just really briefly. Tallahassee is very similar to Gainesville when you think about cost of living and your expenses. So if you are planning for your maybe monthly expenses in terms of groceries and food, you can expect Tallahassee to be very similar to Gainesville. It is not an Orlando or a Miami. It's still a small town. And so you can, when you think about your cost of living, you can pretty mirrored to what you would expect in Gainesville.
That's a really good point. I've also heard of interns who are past interns who are budget conscious enough that there is stipend left over. You know, they pool their resources with their roommates and cook and things like that. Obviously, some of that will look a little different in the spring, but that is another resource to you. These are furnished apartments typically, and so you'll have the ability to cook and whatnot. Galen, there is a question here, probably better for our students who still aren't going to join us for about 5 minutes, but perhaps you could give some insight. What does a regular workday look like? They'd just love to get a better idea of the experience on the ground.
Yeah, so I won't take Kayla and Lauren's shine. I won't steal that from them, but I will tell you, just add a little bit more about they were in a legislative office and in an agency. So I'll just talk about Tallahassee in general. So you can expect throughout the day, there will probably be anywhere from 10 to 15 committee meetings, as I mentioned. So when legislative committees meet on specific issues, so you will probably in your workday can expect to go to at least one of those, if not two. And maybe this year it'll be watching it online, or it may be, you know, being there in person, depending on the size of the committee room. There is also many events that happen each day. So whether that is special for different interest groups or that is around a governor or agency priority, there's always something happening in the Capitol. So you can expect to learn from the different interest groups that are there. And then there's also lots of meetings that take place between the legislative offices and interest groups like the University of Florida or many other different lobbying organizations. So you can expect to, whether that would be taking meetings for the member you work for, or taking minutes for the member you work for those meetings, or just greeting the guests when they arrive. You'll probably also have a hand in making sure those meetings are successful. And then I'll let Lauren and Kayla talk a little bit more about the nitty gritty of like what projects they worked on in their individual offices.
Thanks, Galen.
Lots happening is what you can definitely expect. Not boring.
Could you also talk a little bit about the networking opportunities, more specifically who students have met with in the past? And also, I know we have had past interns then end up in careers in Tallahassee. So could you speak a little bit about how our students could leverage that opportunity as well?
Definitely. So that is a great point. If you are a graduating student, we have helped, and through this program, several students, I would say, I think we currently have 4 previous interns who are working in the state legislature right now, working as staff members. So one of those, a great example, was a student from 2 years ago named Angel, and he was really passionate in his schoolwork about human trafficking. And so he had a really keen interest in that issue in Florida and wanted to be a part of the solution. And so we were able to pair him with Senator Lauren Book, she is a tireless advocate for human trafficking victims in our state. And it was just a perfect fit. And Angel actually joined their team following his internship and is still working with the senator today. So that is a really good example of how you can, use not only what you're passionate about or what you're learning about in school, but kind of those passions in your personal life and bring them to this internship. And then for him, it really turned into a career opportunity. And we have several examples of those. And like I said, many awesome Gators leave UF and move to Tallahassee, even if they weren't a part of this program, and join the legislature as staff members. So, and some of them as members and as elected officials. So we have the opportunity to connect y'all not only to those recent alums, but also, like Marianne said, to Jamal Sowell, who is the Secretary of Commerce now, or to Secretary of State Laurel Lee, or Attorney General Ashley Moody, or Commissioner Nikki Freed. You might not know, but all of those, every single one of those people that I just named is a graduate of the University of Florida. We are lucky not only to have so many Gators in leadership, but Gators that love giving back to students. And so depending on their availability, we are sometimes able to set up one-on-one or small group meetings with staff members. But, especially with, the secretaries, their time is really valuable. So we try to set up group meetings with y'all to just learn about their experience and how the time at UF prepared them to serve in high office. So I think we just had one of our students.
Yeah, we did. Lauren just joined. Hey, Lauren.
Hello.
I just, something Galen said, we'll introduce you here in 1 second, Lauren, but something Galen said and something a student asked privately in the chat. Two other things to consider. If you all have requirements for the spring semester in your academic home unit. So let's say you're in the honors program and there's a certain way you move through the curriculum, or you're in political science and there's like a class you have to take in the spring semester. Go ahead and start looking into that now. Talk to your academic advisor, because if it's early enough in your career at UF, you can come and do this next year if there's going to be conflict. And similarly, if you guys have financial aid needs, Florida Bright Futures, student loans, anything of that nature, go ahead and talk to student financial services now. It will make it easier down the road for you should you be selected. We can help you more accurately address all your needs more quickly. So, and not waste your time as we proceed through the process. So those are just two other tips from the chat that remind me it's good for you all to do the background legwork while you're doing your application. So I'm going to share my screen again briefly so you guys can see. So we have Lauren here with us today. There you are, Lauren. Lauren was a spring 2020 intern, and she was in the Office of Senator Lauren Book. I'm going to ask you, Lauren, if you would unmute your mic and just go ahead and share a little bit with our students about your experience.
Yes, so like as you mentioned, I was in a legislative office with Senator Lauren Book, and previous to this experience, I had really no clue what I was doing. So I was just thankful to be in that office to begin with. But I think the highlight of the experience was networking with so many great people. The UF program introduced us to a lot of state leaders, such as Gwen Graham, Secretary of State Laurel Lee, the Ballard Lobbying Group, Justice LaBarga, who's actually a UF grad, and then also Gator Day. We were at the governor's mansion and got to see Ron DeSantis. And so just having that opportunity to meet with a bunch of state leaders and network and get to know them in a smaller, intimate group with the UF interns was an amazing experience. And also just from being in my office, I ran into the host of the Florida Sunrise podcast, Rick Flagg, who I'm a big fan of and listen to every morning before going into work. So that was a starstruck moment there. And then we also coordinated meeting with President of UF, Kent Fox. And so that was really awesome just to meet with him and tell him more about our experience and get his feedback and just his advice on moving forward with the program. And then also the Gator Caucus was or a group of people that we interacted with a few times. And that just consisted of all of those legislators that were UF grads or double grads, which was a very cool opportunity as well. But then another component of my experience that I really enjoyed was just getting, again, that intimate knowledge of government, like operations and how things work, because I just wasn't super familiar with it. But a big task that we had in a legislative office was preparing bill memos. And those are just the formal documents summarizing senators' upcoming bills in that next committee. And then my job was, after helping deliver that, making sure that if they had any questions or anything, they could call our office and just contact us and let us know. And so that was another great opportunity to go and like meet the people that are staffed in those legislative offices and form those relations. And then also we attended after-hour events, like after working in the Capitol all day, we'd go and in the community would be hosted by different companies, interest groups, parties, anything like that. And they gave us food, you got to network, and I just really enjoyed that as well. But specific to the 2020 legislative session while I was there, some issues that were of hot topic and debate was SB 404, talking about parental consent for abortion. We also had awareness for childhood sexual abuse through Senator Lauren Book. She has an organization called Lauren's Kids. And so she hosts every year a 42-hour walk in the Capitol just to bring that advocacy to the front door of legislators and anyone in Tallahassee. And so I got to hop on a treadmill in the Capitol for an hour and walk and just have everybody walk by and learn more about our issue that we were advocating for, which was really fun. And then also we had a Holocaust education bill up in my office. And so part of that was actually hosting a young woman, Magda Bader, who is actually 90 something, who went through the Holocaust and lives in South Florida. And she came and testified before a committee in advocacy of that bill that we had up in committee. And it was just an amazing experience for me personally, getting to walk around the Capitol with her and just have normal conversation with her and just hear about her life and how resilient she was in the face of so much heartbreak and suffering, because a lot of her family did not make it through that awful experience. And so she, instead of being lonely or upset or mad about it, wanted to come to the Capitol and ensure that future generations were aware of that awful experience so it would never be repeated again. And also we talked a lot about school safety this past session because of the shooting at MSD, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, 2 years ago. And that was a bill that Lauren Book was very passionate about and sat on a committee for. And so that was just a really amazing opportunity. Just recently being out of high school, I was a freshman when I did this program. I knew the implications of that bill would have true impact on high school students, middle school students, just because I was in that scene so recently and was fearful when that happened to go back to school because of those shootings. So I wanted to see positive change in that arena for sure. And then also another thing was, in your office, like, you get a lot of leniency to do those like small tasks that need to be done, but also you have the will to make it what you want. And so I'm a creative person, and I got to actually help with the senator's bi-weekly newsletter called The Book Report, which is super fun because I love just, graphic design and things like that. And so it was a way for me to stay up to date with the bills and issues that are being discussed, because it would be a 3-page thing of what's in the news, what bills we had in committee, and things like that. And it was just a really good way for me to debrief at the end of the day and like take into account all that was going on around me. But just some key takeaways from my experience would definitely be knowing that there is importance in completing the small tasks, and that the trust in your office isn't just freely given, but it's earned. And so I had to learn that definitely from the get-go, that every time that I came into the office, it was my responsibility to make sure information was confidential. I was taking things with responsibility and making sure everything was done to completion, just so the integrity and respectability of our office would be maintained through me being an intern representing Senator Lauren Book. And everything comes down to being humble as well. Like, you just have to be willing and ready to go for anything that they ask you to do, and just handling it professionally.
Thank you so much, Lauren. We really appreciate your time. Could I ask you to just talk real briefly about why you decided to do this your freshman year, and maybe what motivated you to apply?
Yeah, definitely. So coming into UF, I was actually a business major, and I changed that the first week of school to political science. Yeah, the statistics was scary, so had to change that real quick. But because of that, I wanted to just see if that decision was something that I actually would enjoy and reflect on positively. And so I wanted to do an internship to give me that firsthand experience of like, okay, can I be in politics? Like, is this something I can see myself doing in the long run? And so I think as a freshman, getting that opportunity to do that was a surefire way to figure out if you liked it or not. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I definitely am super happy with my degree change and like where I'm going in the future with political science and going to law school and things like that. But it was just a great way to get that interactive, like in person, like, is this what you want to do the rest of your life kind of opportunity.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Galen, anything you want to ask Lauren, or does anyone have any questions in the audience? Okay. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
If you want to hang around a second, just in case anyone thinks of something, I think Kayla I've gotten a message. I think she is stuck in class. I don't see her here.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you are here. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was not paying attention to the room. There you are. Everyone, this is Kayla, one of our interns. She was in the office of Commissioner Nikki Fried. So Kayla, do you want to take a minute and share with us?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'll just talk a little bit about why I applied. So I had applied just because I had a lot of friends who had done the program before, and they had absolutely loved their experience. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with like Girls State, Boys State. It's like a program you do in high school. Like right before your senior year, you go up to the Capitol and you like participate in a mock government. And I had done that when I was a junior going into my senior year of high school. And after that experience of just being in the Florida Capitol, like I knew I had to be back. So when I found out that I could intern in the Capitol, like when I got into college, like I just wanted to do it. I wanted to go for it. So I had applied, and as Marianne had said, I was in the Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Nikki Fried's office. And I just absolutely loved the fast-paced nature of her office. You know, every day walking up to the steps of the Capitol, just facing a new challenge, being in the legislative affairs team, and just looking back at the experience, like I would not trade up this opportunity at all. I would not trade any office for it. And just having the ability to do things in state politics that I never thought or really dreamed that I could do while being a college student and doing this in an internship. And just working in the legislative affairs team was a really unique way for me to kind of see how an executive agency works alongside and conjecture with the state legislature while in session. And I would attend meetings with state senators and representatives with my leg affairs team, and we would negotiate bill language for the legislative agenda for Commissioner Fried's office. And I just learned so much about bill tracking and amendment analysis process. And it was a very like exclusive kind of opportunity for me to just see the legislative making process firsthand. And also just working within the agency, I was also able to like move around between divisions and departments. The commissioner oversees like 20 different divisions and departments within her agency. And so there would just be weeks where I could work in the general counsel's office and kind of see like agricultural law firsthand. I do want to go to law school, so that was really awesome that the general counsel allowed me to see some of the things that they would do. Something that I found really meaningful was working with the diversity and inclusivity director and helping her with like ag innovation focus groups, where I got to meet like small, very rural farmers and just like listen to their concerns and see how our department could help improve the state of agriculture in Florida. And also seeing how like ag education and K through 12 works. It was really cool. And I got to do a lot of things that I didn't think that I could do before like I had applied and wanted to be in the office. So it was really awesome just to see different programs and initiatives that the commissioner would put forward. Just interning in Tallahassee was really unforgettable. The opportunities are endless, and it's just what you make out of it, as what Lauren had said. So I'm free to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kayla. I think both you and Lauren, both sharing your insight and also talking about how the experience is what you make of it too, right? Like Galen and I can only take this so far. We place you in your offices, but it's time, you know, how you use that time there and what you learn is really in your hands. So I see we have a question from someone. So yes, we did address this earlier. Right now, we are treating this as an in-person program this spring. following CDC guidelines. More information will be available as we progress through the interview and placement process, but right now we are looking at it for in-person. So did anyone have any questions of Lauren and Kayla? We're coming to the end of our time here. We have recorded this session and we'll send it out afterward for those of you who joined late. And Lauren and Kayla, if you are able to or interested, if you could drop your emails in the chat if students wanted to contact you about your experience. I'm sure sometimes people want to ask questions out loud in the session. So, all right, Galen, do you have any final thoughts or words?
Just Marianne and I's contact information. Marianne, if you'll put up that slide.
Yes, thank you.
That's our contact information if you want to write that down and reach out to us again with any questions, or like Marianne had said and I earlier, with any logistical, you know, around course credit or what the work day will look like, kind of some more of those very specific questions that might change whether or not you choose to apply. We're happy to answer them. And we look forward to seeing your applications in a few weeks.